Hey everybody, this is Damjan Giorjiev from Lions Rock Production, and our guest today is Diana Todd-Banks. You may be wondering, oh, I've heard of her, but I can't exactly remember. Well, she's been around for a very long time. I met Diana 3 years ago when she asked me to be her podcast producer and go-to guy for her show. Together, we started the MaturePreneurs Talk podcast. You need to check that one out and subscribe. That's free, come on, we don't charge anything for subscriptions. While I have you in subscription mode, click subscribe to the Break It Down show and write us a short comment. Maybe something like, hey, that Aussie accent made my day, or Diana's dog Tapas is the cutest little creature on earth. Hey, are you still into subscribing? Head over to savethebrave.org and give them your support. Now, let me tell you more about Diana. For years, she received extensive media coverage during her involvement with music, wine, food, PR, and Excalibur cars. What a style. But life is not always fair. 17 years ago, she wasn't able to walk or speak for 6 months, but she didn't give up. She came back from chronic fatigue syndrome, and thank God she is doing great since then. Personally, I find her story very inspiring, and I'm sure you'll find it too. Me and Pete sat down with Diana and talked about her career, her show, and her new book. Oh yeah, she's written 9 of them. 3 of them were international bestsellers, so this lady doesn't mess around. You can visit her at dianatoddbanks.com. Now, without further ado, enjoy the show today with Diana Todd-Banks.
Lions Rock Productions.
This is Jay
This
Moore.
is Greg Proops.
This is Jordan Harbinger.
This is Dexter from The Offspring.
This is Nathan
This is
East.
Sebastian Younger.
This is Rick
This
Marotta.
is Stuart Copeland.
This is Mick Gillette.
This is Andy Summers.
Hey, this is Skunk Baxter.
This is Gabby Reese.
This is Rob Bell.
Hey, this is John Leon Guerrero.
Hey, and this is Pete A. Turner.
Hi, this is Diana Todd-Banks on the Break It Down Show.
And now, the Break It Down Show with John Leon Guerrero and Pete A. Turner.
Yes, this is great. I think this is the first time in human history that we've had a show simultaneously recorded on 3 different continents when those countries of origin are Australia, the United States, and of course Macedonia, which means that in his inaugural co-hosting, co-producing venture, our man Damjan is joining me, and I'm so happy that we have this. It's one thing to be a producer, engineer, mixer, but it's another thing to get on the mic, and so I think this is what I love about what I do. You know, I build a network, and yes, we've got a great network here in the States, a big audience in Australia and France, but now we're going after the Balkans, and Damjan is our lead guy with this, and I said, start producing episodes, and he said, got it, here we go, we're going to get Diana, and I said, sweet. So Damjan, I'm going to get out of your way and let you drive the bus.
Yeah, thanks, Pete. I'm honored to be a co-host on the Break It Down show, and I'm so excited to be here and welcome Diana as my first official guest. So she's a wonderful lady from Gold Coast in Australia. We started working on her show MaturePreneurs Talk 2 years ago, and since then we recorded, produced, and published over 180 episodes. And no, we are not stopping there. I love doing her show. You gotta check it out. It's really interesting, and you would love it. Like you just said, you have to respect shows like this. We are recording from 3 different countries, in North America, in Australia, and in North Macedonia. So here it's 5 a.m. in the morning. I had to wake up early and do this show, but I love doing this. So thanks, Pete, for having me, and thanks, Diana, for coming on the show to share your story with us. So, Diana, would you give your listeners an insight into who you are?
Yes, sure. I'm a person that breaks rules. I break rules, certainly in my demographic. Most people are amazed at what I do. They're amazed at the number of books I've written, and they're all about helping other people. I had a big breakdown, not mental breakdown, but physical breakdown 18 years ago when I lost the ability to walk and speak. Whoa. And at that time, I vowed if I ever recovered, I would help other people. And the various things that I've done since then has led me to helping over 50s create a new life and promote their new life, and it's been so exciting to do.
Well, I've heard about that. I've read it about it especially in the book The Success Secret, the one with Jack Canfield.
Yeah.
So my question is, why do you love helping others shine?
I love it because I love to hear their response, particularly the over 50s. This demographic is so big. It's the largest demographic in marketing history. And it has basically been ignored by marketers except for wheelchairs, wheelie walkers, hearing aids, and false teeth. And there's a heck of a lot of people out there that are a million times opposite that. And as Damjan knows, having edited all of the podcasts, the stories are pretty astonishing, aren't they, Damjan?
Yeah, of course. They are so good episodes, and I've learned a lot from all the stories that I've heard from, especially from older people, because I'm in my 20s, and when I hear people that are opening businesses or have great ideas and enthusiasm in their 50s or 60s or even 70s, and there were guests that they were 80 and older, I get so motivated to keep going and doing what I love and work. And yeah, I'm really motivated from the stories.
What's great about that, Damjan, is the fact that given the age you are and the stories you're hearing and editing, there's actually a big gap in those ages. And yet you're finding the content very interesting, which is why different age groups would benefit from listening to that, wouldn't they?
Hey, this is Pete. Real quick, I just want to let you guys know we are proud to announce our official support of Save the Brave, a certified nonprofit 501c3 with a charter of helping veterans with post-traumatic stress. Here's how you can help. Go to SaveTheBrave.com, click on the link on the website, and my recommendation is this. Subscribe. Give them $20 a month. You've got subscriptions that you can turn off right now that you're not using that are $20 a month. Swap that out. Get involved. Let's help these folks out.
The content very interesting, which is why different age groups would benefit from listening to that, wouldn't they?
Yeah. One of the things I'm wondering, Diana, as you do this, and myself, I'm about to hit 50. We've been through it. We've had people close to us die. We've had people fall out of love with people that we love tremendously and watched people suffer and all these things where life has thrown pretty much its best shots at us. I'm not saying that we haven't taken a knee or, in your case, heck, completely immobile, right? But there's a confidence that we have through transition that it's going to work out. Like we've seen the hardest that life can throw at us and we can get on. But that's hard for young folks to appreciate that. Like it's almost like they're like, we have no fear, but in reality, we've seen hard and then kept going. It's a different level of fear, don't you think?
Yes, totally agree with you. Yes, because they have a different expectation of life, at least I believe, and they expect solutions need to come their way in other forms, not through their doing. And I think that what we have all done is found ways to find a solution to get over whatever it is we've had to do or needed to do, move on, and be able to have a new life again.
Yeah. What's an example of that you've had from one of your guests where they've just absolutely been waylaid by life, but were undeniable? They get back up and they get after it and they go earn that next shot and they earn that next break.
One woman was close to committing suicide. She was so down with all of the negatives that were going on in her life that she was extremely close to committing suicide. And then the only thing she wasn't happy about were her dogs. And one of them became quite ill, quite unexpectedly. And suddenly, from being ready to commit suicide, I've got to help my dog. I've got to help my dog. So all the thought of committing suicide went out the window, and her primary focus was helping her dog, which turned her thought to, I need to do something with animals. And that's what she did. Yeah. They're funny little things. There's funny little stories, little events that are actually gigantic events that cause these people to totally change course. And that's what's wonderful.
Yeah. Have the guests on the podcast, have they ever expressed they had any chance finding a new direction in life?
Gosh, yes. So many of them, so thrilled. They're so thrilled. And in the book that will be releasing soon, many of the guests who are in the book have expressed how happy they are, how much younger they feel, how much healthier they feel, how their mind is so far more alert. They feel a new person. And that's wonderful. And this is expressed a lot by people in their 70s. And even the chap, Damjan, who's 80, he's a live wire.
Yeah. I was always wondering, could the content apply to a different age group from the podcast?
Absolutely, yes. And if I could find a way to target it differently or position it differently, I'd love to. I'd love to get or attract a different demographic, because there's a lot of tips that people of any age can learn from the podcasts.
All right, let's work on that. Let's just spend some time here. I'll start, and I'm going to give a tip, right? Because we both have podcasts, and you're welcome to disagree. But the barriers to putting out any significant number of podcasts, 50, 100, 200, whatever it is, those things are about hard work and digging in when you don't want to. It's not about the name of the show. No one gives a fuck about your show until you've actually spent time and made your show valuable, So whether you call it, 2 drinks and some chocolate, no one cares. You have to work really hard. It is not that easy to build an audience. You really have to work hard, and you have to give the audience something that's valuable. What's your tip, Diana? What have you picked up?
For people particularly who are stuck in what they want to do, regardless of what age group they are, but particularly the mature age group, but it can be a lot of people. When people are fired from a job or can't find a job or whatever, they go through a divorce, whatever, and they need to find something else to do to bring in income. And they go job after job hunting and nothing happens and blah, blah, blah. And they go downhill in morale and a whole range of things happen. But if people can spend some time somewhere on their own, be quiet, and think about what makes them happy. It sounds awfully easy. What makes you happy? What did you love doing when you were a kid?
Yes.
What did you love doing? Or alternatively, what were you frightened of doing as a kid? For me, I was terrified of speaking to more than 2 people at once. If I had to do that, I'd put my hand over my face and then I'd try and speak, because I was so ashamed that what I was saying no one would want to hear. And then here am I doing things completely the opposite to that. But finding deep in your heart what fires you up. Don't say to yourself, oh, I love doing this, but I can't because. Forget all of those limitations. Think of the positives of what you love doing. And then within that, if you break some of those positives down, you may find some very interesting opportunities. And some of the podcasts, Damjan, I don't remember, I don't know if you recall one chap who ended up to be the gardening troubadour.
Mm-hmm.
He loved making cheese, he loved gardening, and he loved playing the guitar.
Yeah.
He couldn't find a job. So he created a job out of those three things. As simple as that.
Yeah. I wanted to ask you about your early life when you moved to America, where you worked as a wine importer, I think.
Yeah.
Can you share some of your young days there?
My younger days there.
Yeah.
I lived a very high-profile life in Los Angeles, and particularly in Orange County, where you are, Pete.
Yeah.
I had a wine importing company with premises in Costa Mesa. And in order to get that, this is funny, in order to have a wine importer's license, I had to find an American citizen.
Right.
And I eventually found one. And the reason I got into that is because I had been consulting in the wine industry for about 15 years prior to that. And so here am I, not really knowing anything at all about the intricacies of the different requirements with the various states within the United States. But in any case, so I started this wine importing company. The partner had a son that was an absolute screwball, and he was frightening. We had previously taken the company public on the New York Stock Exchange, and the partner decided he was going to kill, at least my partner's son decided he was going to kill his father so that he could get his shares, so that he could talk about having a company on the New York Stock Exchange. It was terrible. It was absolutely terrible. There were all kinds of physical fights. My partner ended up in jail, and he didn't do anything wrong. It was the son. Then the son came after me.
Oh, boy.
And threatened to kill me if I didn't give him my shares, which I refused to do. And so I gave my shares to my business partner and then ticked off and went to the Bahamas for a cruise. I had to get away.
Yeah, that absolutely had to get away. I want to ask a little bit about that. I mean, because one of the lessons that we all learn, again, are these hard life lessons, where this is what I've learned in my as I hit my middle age now, is ego and fear are things that have always limited me, and the things that I'm afraid of make no damn sense. And I have a lot of people that propose guests to me, or I'll say, hey, I'm going to go after this person, and they'll say, oh, they won't do it. I'm like, wait, don't say no for them. Like, let's let them say no. Let's let them have the chance to do it.
Yes.
And it's these fear-based decisions. My impression is that as we get older and we learn more of the rules of life, it's not that we don't give a damn. It's just that we give a damn about different things.
Yes.
Do you think that's a fair assumption?
Absolutely, yes. But there's another aspect to that too. People, once they hit their midlife, particularly women, have grown up largely focusing on helping others.
Right. Yes.
Yeah.
Not thinking about themselves. And so when it comes time, through whatever life experiences come their way and they're on their own, having to think for themselves is really, really difficult. And from my perspective and with MaturePreneurs, it's important for the midlife group of people to learn to think differently. And many of them need to be taught how to, shown how to, and often having a coach or a mentor will help them immensely. It's a learning of a different language, and it's truly thinking outside the box, thinking outside the square, thinking beyond whatever. And if you have this little voice in your mind saying, oh, I'd love to do so-and-so. No, I can't because. Or it could have been a spouse that said that. You can't. You're too dumb. You don't have enough money. You don't have the skills. And the spouse or partner or some other relation may come up with all these reasons why the person can't, and it kills their enthusiasm.
Yeah.
So it's better that they are out on their own so they can flourish.
Right now we're talking with Diana Todd-Banks. She's, Diana, you're so many things. You're an entrepreneur, you're an author, you're a life coach, you're a podcaster. I'm going to stop because I can't get them all in, but you're really, really fantastic. And all you really have to do is search Diana Todd-Banks on Google, Bing, wherever you search, and you're going to find her. But there's just a wealth of knowledge. And so I encourage you guys to check her out. She does do Instagram, although she's working on a book that we're going to get her to talk about next. She's on Twitter a little bit. You can find her. She's not hard to find, Diana Todd-Banks. If you can't find her, Pete A. Turner on all social media, and I will link you to her because I'm telling you right now, there's a treasure trove of knowledge, and we're just touching the ice. Like, her time in Orange County is significant, and it's impressive to have you on the show, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Well, I have to tell you why I first did the show.
Okay.
And wanted to do the show, because you'll understand. My first job many decades ago was working at a newspaper. I was just 16, and the editor called me into his office one day shortly after I started and said to me, a piece of advice: if you want to learn about any topic at all, read 5 newspapers every day, the beginning, the middle, and the end. And you will know a topic by then, and just follow that. Now, I did that and have done that and still do that. And so after I lost the ability to walk and speak and I became strong again, I thought, I was reading the papers and I started to see all of these articles about people in their midlife, and as I mentioned earlier, they're wheelie walkers and they're all of the negatives about them, and nothing positive. Nothing positive was coming through, and I thought, this is a disgrace. What can I do about it? So I'd just come across podcasts, and I thought, oh, how do I do that? Mm-hmm. And so I spent 6 months learning and going through and scrolling and going through different classes, and did as much as I possibly could do. Then I thought, oh, what am I going to call it? And that took another few weeks, and a friend of mine got absolutely insanely tired of me because I was coming up with a particular name, which is MaturePreneurs. And then I'd say, no, that's ridiculous. That's stupid. And so I wanted to find a way to show the positives of what over 50s or near 50s were doing and achieving.
Right.
And so from the podcasts, I've chosen some of the guests and invited them to be in the book, and that I'm just about ready to send to the publisher. And it's really inspiring, their stories. I'm hoping that people will read it and glean some inspiration for themselves so they too can get some ideas of what to do. And what did I call it?
Yes.
I haven't even told you. Have I, Damien?
Nope.
Nope. I've called it, quite simply, MaturePreneurs Talk, How to Have a Productive, Energized, Creative Life.
Well, that's a good one.
Yeah.
This is exclusively first time. I think. Yeah, that's right.
My scoop tone.
It's a good name. Love it.
Yeah, it is a good name.
I can't wait to read it because I think there's a small part dedicated to me in the book. So
There's
I want to take a look. Yeah,
Yeah.
I want to take a look at it.
Yes, I acknowledge a few people in there. Not too many. You're certainly one of them, Damien. You're certainly one.
You made the cut. When you look at someone like Damien, who's running an international business, producing podcasts, doing some music mixing for everything, what's your advice to someone like him? I mean, he gets to do this in part because where he lives doesn't live in Orange County, right? He doesn't live on the Gold Coast of Australia, where it would be a different thing. What's your advice to him?
Be reliable.
Yeah.
Your English is getting much, much better since you and I have communicated, and that's great. I think what you're doing, Damien, is wonderful. I keep persisting. Have a goal, and if you can't find the answer to how to do something, go after someone who's going to be able to help you. And even if it's someone whom you think, oh, I don't think they're going to be able to help, ask them anyway. Anyway, don't be afraid of asking.
Yeah, thanks. That's a good one. Thanks.
I guess I'm gonna put a little advice in there too, and it's along the same lines. You know, when you want help and someone offers, task them out. This is what I need right here. This is what help. If you can provide this, that'll be enormously beneficial. Because otherwise, if you leave it up to them, you won't necessarily get what you want or what you need. And I think that if you're really building something big and people believe in you enough to say, yeah, well, I can help, believe them and give them a big hunk of work.
Hey, this is Pete A. Turner from Lions Rock Productions. We create podcasts around here. And if you, your brand, or your company want to figure out how to do a podcast, just talk to me. I'll give you the advice on the right gear, the best plan, and show you how to take a podcast that makes sense for you, that's sustainable, that's scalable, and fun. Hit me up at pete@breakitdownshow.com. Let me help. I want to hear about it.
If you're really building something big and people believe in you enough to say, yeah, well, I can help, believe them and give them a big hunk of work.
Yeah.
Diana, when does your book come out?
Well, I'm hoping within the next month, maybe less.
Okay.
I'll know the answer to that before the end of this week.
That means sometime in September the book should drop, and you're actually finishing it up today, tomorrow, the next day. I mean, this thing is really hot off the press, and so we're fortunate to grab you at this time. I'm going to go back to the podcast. When you look at the MaturePreneurs that you've had on, you know, you've had a great collection of guests and everything. Everybody should go to iTunes, sign up, rate and review, 5 stars. You guys know the deal. This is how you support these things. Who's on your list? Who's like, I would just sit there and be gobsmacked if so-and-so sat down with me and was on my show?
Oh, gosh. There's one person I would absolutely love. And because you've thrown that at me, I've completely forgotten his name. You'll know Larry King.
Larry King.
Good choice.
I actually know someone that knows Larry King. Maybe I can set that up. Who knows?
I had the opportunity of writing a book with him, but I chose not to because it was going to cost me about $10,000. And I thought, no, I think I'll do that another time. But I always remember reading and hearing him talk about how he started interviewing. And that was on radio before he had a television program. And he used to start by just asking his guests very short questions and let them do the talking because, as you would know, Pete, particularly, a lot of hosts, particularly American hosts, keep talking and talking and talking before their guest can even answer.
This is me shutting up.
No, you're good. No, but truly, on some of the major networks, they do. They just keep talking and don't let the guest answer, or else give them just a little bit of time to answer.
Is Larry King still on air? I think not.
No, he's
No.
he's stopped now.
Yeah, he's
I'm
85.
not quite
right
sure
now.
what he does now.
He had a thing for a while called Aura TV that he was doing, and I'm not sure if he's actively still doing it, but kind of just working on his own terms on his own project and getting other people time on the. But you know how internet companies are, and when you're trying to publish on the web, it gets a little tough to stick with it because it's just hard to. Diana, it turns out it's really hard to get an audience. To get folks to appreciate what you do, and then, dare I say, spend money. Along the way. These are challenges that even Larry King faces.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yeah.
But then he would have had the big advertisers.
Yeah, that helps. Yeah. When you look at entrepreneurship over the decades, right? I mean, you've been doing this stuff for a long time. There's things that we've learned. I've done a lot of work and podcasts with startups, and it shocks me that they have drinking in the workplace openly, like no charge. Here's booze. Have it whenever you want. And I'm just like, I've seen this play. It doesn't work out well. But
No.
Turns out. What are some of the things that you've picked up along the way that it was like, this still applies even if nobody else understands it? Like whatever it's dressing sharp or whatever it's going to be, what are things that you think are timeless in terms of entrepreneurial skills?
Well, being creative, thinking, really being open to new opportunities. Don't, just because something seems very strange at first doesn't mean to say it's not a great idea. Presenting yourself well, obviously, speaking well, good manners, those are timeless. Those issues are clearly timeless. And it doesn't matter what age you are, it still applies. And I think more so. And also learning to speak correctly.
Yeah.
In Australia, there are a lot of people who have very bad language. I'm not talking about swearing. It's just their English is very bad. It's sloppy and it doesn't present well.
Well,
Speaking clearly, eloquently is a real plus.
Yeah. I'm sort of a grammar Nazi myself, but in Macedonian language, because I hate when people are not talking or even writing properly. I'm trying to get better at English, as we discussed, but I love my language and I want to respect it. And everybody who lives here should know it and should speak it perfectly. Diana, I wanted to ask you about your public relations career, because I'm a student on public relations, so I'm trying to learn from you, from your career and everything.
I wrote a PR manual for small businesses, which I think I offered you at one point.
Yeah.
Year before last.
Yeah,
but
I got that.
We,
I got that in my computer.
we didn't ever go anywhere with that. But PR, today PR is such a huge field and it's such a specialized field. And I certainly, when I was in the United States, my gosh, did I do PR extensively. But I did things that shocked even Americans and stunned Australians. Pete, have you heard of Vegemite?
Yep. I've had a Vegemite sandwich just because.
You have? Oh, good on you. Do you know what Vegemite is, Damien?
Not really. I have to Google
Okay.
that.
I'll describe it briefly for you. It's black.
Okay.
It smells bad. and in fact, one top LA broadcaster who had me on his program said to me, "You mean that you're promoting that something that smells bad, it stinks, tastes bad, and looks bad?" And I said very proudly, "Yes, you bet." And the point was, though, it's a breakfast spread and used a bit like peanut butter, but spread thinly. And Pete, I was the sole US importer of that.
Oh, no kidding. I
Yep.
bought your product.
And when I can't believe I did this, I ordered a 40-foot sea freight container of 4-ounce jars of Vegemite from the Australian manufacturer Kraft. That's a hell of a lot of tiny jars.
Yeah.
My first shipment arrived on the LA docks, and Time magazine did a major cover story on sodium. And if you remember, it had a very salty
It's
taste.
salty. Yeah.
Yeah, I have to try that.
You don't have to try it. No, it's I get why you guys like it. It's like we like peanut butter. No one else does. Peanut butter tastes great to us. Everybody else is like, what the hell are you guys doing? It's not even really
Yeah, I like
peanuts.
peanut butter. Yeah.
I like peanut butter, but I don't like it with the sugar. I like pure ground
Right.
peanuts.
That's what I'm saying.
But anyway,
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the
so
healthy
what I
version, yeah.
did, I had to, with Time magazine doing such a huge story on sodium, it just ruined my chances of trying to sell Vegemite.
Mm-hmm.
All of these little itty bitty jars. And so I called the manufacturer up and said, do you know what the sodium count is? And they said, no. And I said, right, well, I'm not going to pay for the shipment until you can tell me what it is. It took 6 months for them to tell me what it was. In the meantime, I bought a very old convertible, Mustang convertible. I had it painted red. I had a magnetic label made the same as the jar of Vegemite. And then I hired 2 students, university students, and said to them, okay, one of you is going to drive the Mustang with a top hat, and the other one, you'll sit in the back seat with a kangaroo head on you. And he was actually dressed as a large kangaroo.
Mm-hmm.
And your job is going to be driving up and down the LA freeways. I received so much PR from that.
I love it.
It was crazy. And to me, that was a very good example of doing things a little bit differently to get people's attention, which I did. I was on so many programs, radio programs. And so it was a good lesson for others that try and think differently in getting your message out.
Mm-hmm. Can you tell the difference between public relations strategies, for example, in the past and now? Because now everything goes on the internet, via social media. When you worked as a PR, you use the newspaper and the radio, that's all, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's kind of different, right?
Yes, it is different, but the principles are not.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The principles are not. A company still has something to sell. They need to find an audience. And what's the best way to do it? And so social media today makes that a lot easier to happen. But you can still do things a little in an unconventional way and get attention.
Yeah, maybe today you can do it yourself. In the past, you would probably had to get a journalist and do it.
No, I didn't. I did it.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I did it.
Yeah. I was thinking about the companies. Yeah, but today everybody makes his own, their own PR.
Yeah.
They can do it by themselves, but that's probably not quite right. I don't know.
PR can be measured. A lot of people say PR can't be measured, but it can. It depends on how many column inches you get in the print media and how much airtime you get on the internet or news programs.
Yeah.
I want to just remind everybody, DianaTodd-Banks.com, coaching, author, podcast. Go get the podcast on iTunes. Lots of really intelligent and insightful, wise guests on there. And Diana is, gosh, you're so impressive with all of your we just had a conversation about PR. You talk about marketing to open the show. There's just so much depth in your knowledge of what you're doing. I really appreciate you taking the time to, as I stare down the barrel at 50 doesn't bother me too much, but I see a lot of folks that are living lives past 50 that aren't all that happy. And so it gets a little terrifying for us young old folks, us young middle-aged folks. And so it's great to see that there's, lots of vibrance and creativity, because that's what I plan to do with this latter portion of my life is be creative, tell stories, encourage others to do the same thing. And I'm just going to lean on your lessons and try to find ways to continue to stay positive about all these things, because it's sure as heck easy to see the worst in everything out there, because at least here in America, we're all a bunch of jerks to each other. We hate ourselves. And, I go to the VA a lot, and there's a lot of broken people, and I'm fighting desperately to keep my body in shape and my mind sharp and everything else, and my spirit. Caring. I was having a conversation today with my buddy Justin, talking about taking care of your spirituality, your mentality, and obviously your physicality. But it's hard. It's easier said than done.
Well, actually, I think the more people who are over 50 that speak out and talk about their new life, the more people will start to think, well, maybe I can. Because I've had some guests on the program, quite a few actually, who have said that after 50, you are entering the best time of your life, the best age group.
Yeah.
This is an age group where you have a blank canvas and it's up to you to go and paint it.
Yeah.
Instead of listening to the naysayers, because at the moment there's still a lot of them, but the proportion of yes-sayers, the positive people in the over 50s, that demographic that percentage is growing quite dramatically.
I love it. Yeah, no, it's true. And especially like in my age group, a lot of us are putting our last kid into college, or they're watching them go away. And, empty nesting is especially like you said earlier, because moms are always taking care of somebody else. And now the house gets real empty. But this is the time for excitement. Like you said, you get to grab that canvas. You get to put your energy into something that cares for you and care for your own spirituality, mentality.
Yeah.
Because you've done enough for everybody else.
Definitely. That's exactly right.
Well, listen, let's do this some more. Let's have you come back and do another one. And, let's just keep going, because this is what it's all about, whether it's Australia or America or whatever. Let's just keep telling these stories, and let's keep swapping slots on each other's shows, and keep making the world a slightly better place.
Love to do that.